The phone call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my downtown office. Mom's voice had that particular tone she used when she was trying to sound casual about something that was anything but. Maya, honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving this year. I set down my coffee and leaned back in my leather chair, watching the Seattle skyline through my corner office window. At 28, I'd learned to read the subtext in my adoptive mother's voice like a financial analyst reads market trends. What about it, Mom? Well, your father and I have been thinking. This year we want to keep it small. Just immediate family. You know, blood relatives only. The words hit me like a physical blow, even though part of me had been expecting something like this for years. The Whitmores had never been subtle about their preference for their biological children, David and Jennifer. I was the charity case they'd taken in at age 3 after my birth parents died in a car accident. I see, I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. So I'm not invited to Thanksgiving dinner. Oh Maya, don't be dramatic. It's not that you're not invited. It's just, well, we want to have a traditional family gathering this year. You understand. Traditional. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Nothing about my life with the Whitmores had ever been traditional, at least not for me. While David got the latest gaming consoles and Jennifer received a car for her 16th birthday, I'd worked summers to buy my own school supplies. While their achievements were celebrated with family dinners out, my acceptance to law school was acknowledged with a card. I understand perfectly, I said, and I did. More than she knew. After hanging up, I stared at my computer screen, the numbers blurring together. My assistant knocked and entered with a stack of documents requiring my signature. Everything all right, Ms. Chin? She asked, using my professional name. I'd legally changed it from Whitmore 5 years ago, something that had caused a spectacular family fight. Fine, Linda. Just family drama. She raised an eyebrow but didn't pry. Linda had worked for me for 3 years and knew better than most how I kept my personal and professional lives strictly separate. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, a successful financial consultant who managed millions of dollars in assets. Yet I was still the unwanted child in my adoptive family's eyes. What they didn't know, what I'd carefully kept hidden for 2 years, was that I was the anonymous benefactor who had been paying their mortgage and medical bills. When Dad lost his job at the manufacturing plant and Mom's cancer treatment started draining their savings, they'd been on the verge of losing the house I'd grown up in. The same house where I'd never quite belonged, but somehow couldn't bear to see them lose. Through a shell company and a series of carefully orchestrated financial maneuvers, I'd been covering their expenses. The mortgage payments, Dad's heart medication, Mom's chemotherapy bills, all of it flowing from my accounts to theirs without their knowledge. They thought they'd won some kind of financial lottery, that their insurance company had suddenly become generous, that various charity organizations had selected them for assistance. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. David Rodriguez, Senior Loan Officer at Pacific Northwest Bank, had been my primary contact for setting up the financial arrangements for the Whitmores. David, it's Maya Chin. I need a favor. Of course, what can I do for you? Remember the Whitmore account we discussed? I think it's time for a more personal approach to their case. David was quiet for a moment. He was one of the few people who knew about my connection to the family and my anonymous financial support. Are you sure about this, Maya? Once you reveal yourself as their benefactor. I'm sure. In fact, I'd like you to attend their Thanksgiving dinner with me. As their loan officer, of course. You'll need to discuss some important changes to their account. This sounds like it could get messy. It already is messy, David. I'm just evening the playing field. After we hung up, I spent the rest of the afternoon crafting my strategy. If the Whitmores wanted to play the blood family card, they were about to learn that biology meant nothing compared to the person who'd been keeping their lives afloat. That evening, I sat in my downtown condo looking out at the city lights. I'd built a good life for myself. Successful career, beautiful home, financial security. But there was still that little girl inside me who just wanted to belong somewhere, to be wanted by the people who'd raised her. Maybe it was time to stop wanting that. Maybe it was time to show them exactly what they were losing. I picked up my phone and dialed the Whitmore house. Mom answered on the third ring. Hi, Mom. I wanted to let you know that I'll be coming to Thanksgiving dinner after all. Maya, I thought we discussed this. We did. And I've decided that you're right. It should be just family. So I'm bringing someone who's become very important to our family's future. I'm sure you'll want to meet him. Who? See you Thursday at 6. And Mom? You might want to make sure Dad's heart medication is handy. This could be quite a surprise. I hung up before she could respond, a smile playing at my lips for the first time all day. The Whitmores were about to learn that family wasn't just about blood. It was about who showed up when it mattered. And I'd been showing up in ways they never even knew. The next morning I met David Rodriguez at a small cafe near the bank. He looked nervous, stirring his coffee more than necessary while avoiding eye contact. David was a good man, mid-40s, divorced, father of 2 teenagers. We'd worked together on numerous financial arrangements over the years, and he'd become something of a friend, though he'd never quite understood my complicated relationship with the Whitmores. I've been thinking about this all night, Maya, he said finally. Are you sure this is the right approach? There has to be a better way to handle this situation. I pulled out a manila folder and spread the contents across the table. Bank statements, loan documents, payment records, 2 years' worth of financial support that had kept the Whitmore family afloat. Look at these numbers, David. 24 months of mortgage payments, 17 chemotherapy sessions, emergency room visits, prescription medications, home repairs. Do you know what the total is? He scanned the documents, his eyes widening. Jesus, Maya. This is over $200,000. $237,412, to be exact. And they have no idea where any of it came from. They think they're just lucky that various insurance companies and charities decided to be generous. David leaned back in his chair. Why didn't you tell them it was you? The question I'd asked myself 1,000 times. Why hide it? Why not take credit for being the daughter who saved their home, their health, their dignity? Because I wanted to see if they'd love me anyway. If they'd include me without knowing what I'd done for them. I gathered the papers back into the folder. Now I have my answer. And you want me to be there when you tell them? I want you to be there as their loan officer. Someone who can explain the technical details of where their miracle money came from. Someone official. David nodded slowly. What exactly do you want me to say? Just be yourself. Be professional. When they ask questions about their account, answer honestly. Let them put the pieces together. That afternoon I went shopping for the perfect outfit. Something professional but not too formal. Something that said successful daughter without screaming revenge. I settled on a navy blue dress with a blazer. The kind of outfit I wore to important client meetings. As I drove home my phone rang. Jennifer. Maya, Mom is freaking out about you bringing someone to dinner. Who is this mystery man? Please tell me you're not trying to cause drama. My younger sister had always been the peacekeeper in the family. 3 years younger than me, Jennifer had gotten the full benefit of being a real Whitmore child, college fund, emotional support, unconditional love. But she'd also inherited their conflict avoidance gene. His name is David Rodriguez. He's a professional colleague. A colleague? Maya, please don't tell me you're bringing a business associate to Thanksgiving dinner to stick it to Mom and Dad. Would I do that? Yes. Absolutely you would. I couldn't help but smile. Jennifer knew me better than our parents ever had. Jen, can I ask you something? Did you know about the blood family only rule before Mom called me? She was quiet for a long moment. Maya. Did you know? Dad mentioned it a few weeks ago. He said they wanted to keep it small this year. And you didn't think to call me? To maybe suggest that excluding your adopted sister might not be the best idea. I thought Mom was going to change her mind. I thought she'd realize how hurtful it was. But she didn't. No, she didn't. After we hung up, I felt a familiar ache in my chest. The same feeling I'd had countless times growing up. The sense of being on the outside looking in even within my own family. That evening I called David Rodriguez again to finalize our plans. I'll pick you up at 5:30, I told him. Dinner starts at 6. Maya, I have to ask, what's the end game here? What do you want to happen? I looked out my window at the Seattle skyline thinking about the question. What did I want? An apology? Recognition? All of the above. I want them to understand that family isn't about DNA. It's about showing up. It's about being there when people need you even when they don't deserve it. Even when they don't know you're there. And if they react badly, then at least I'll know where I stand. No more wondering, no more hoping they'll suddenly see me as their real daughter. I'll have my answer. David sighed. All right. I'll be ready. After hanging up, I walked to my home office and looked at the framed photo on my desk. The only family picture I kept. It was from my college graduation, the four of us standing together outside the university's main hall. Mom and Dad looked proud but distant. Jennifer beamed with genuine happiness for my achievement, and I looked hopeful. Hopeful that this accomplishment might finally earn me the acceptance I'd been seeking my whole life. I'd been naive then. Success, it turned out, couldn't buy unconditional love. Tomorrow, the Whitmores would learn exactly who had been their guardian angel for the past 2 years. They would discover that their not-real daughter had been more family to them than they'd ever been to her. I just hoped I was ready for whatever came next. Thursday evening arrived with an early winter chill that seemed to seep through my coat as David and I walked up the familiar path to the Whitmore house. The same house where I'd spent my childhood, feeling like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Tonight, I was returning with the truth about who had been keeping this house in the family. David carried a leather briefcase, at my suggestion. Just in case they have questions about their account, I'd told him, though we both knew this wasn't going to be a casual conversation about banking. The front door opened before we could knock. Mom stood there in her best dress, the one she usually reserved for church on Easter Sunday. Her smile was strained, the kind of expression she wore when she was trying to be polite about something that irritated her. "Maya, you look lovely," she said, her eyes immediately shifting to David. "And you must be David Rodriguez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm a senior loan officer at Pacific Northwest Bank." I watched Dad's face from across the living room. He'd been reaching for the remote control, but his hand froze midair at the word bank. Mom's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "How nice," she said. "Maya didn't mention you worked in banking." "We have a professional relationship," I said, hanging my coat in the hall closet. Everything looked exactly as it had when I'd lived here. The same beige walls, the same family photos lining the hallway. Photos that included me, but somehow I'd always looked like an afterthought in the compositions. Jennifer appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She'd clearly been helping with dinner preparations, playing her usual role as the dutiful daughter. Her eyes met mine with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "David, this is my sister Jennifer," I said. "And my parents, Robert and Carol Whitmore." "Please call me Bob," Dad said, shaking David's hand with the overly firm grip he used when he was nervous. "So, you work at Pacific Northwest Bank?" "I do. I've been with them for 12 years now." "We bank there," Mom said, her voice taking on a slightly higher pitch. "Have for, must be 15 years now." "Yes, I know," David said simply. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. I could see the wheels turning in Dad's head, trying to figure out why his daughter would bring their loan officer to Thanksgiving dinner. "Well," Mom said, clapping her hands together. "Shall we eat?" "Everything's ready." The dining room table was set for 6, the nuclear family plus David and me. The good china was out, the same set Mom had inherited from her mother and used only for special occasions. 2 empty places sat where my adoptive grandparents usually would have been, but they'd passed away 3 years ago. As we took our seats, I noticed Dad kept glancing at David, clearly trying to place him. Mom busied herself with serving, her movements more hurried than usual. "So, David," Dad said as Mom passed around the turkey, "what kind of work do you do at the bank?" "I handle commercial and residential loans primarily. I work with families who need financial assistance, help them navigate difficult situations." "That must be rewarding work," Jennifer said, though I could see the worry in her eyes. She knew me well enough to sense that this wasn't a casual dinner invitation. "Can be. Especially when you're able to help families stay in their homes during tough times." I saw Dad's fork pause halfway to his mouth. "The Whitmores are actually one of my success stories," David continued, cutting into his turkey with deliberate precision. "When Bob lost his job 2 years ago, things looked pretty dire. The mortgage was in danger, medical bills were piling up. But we were able to work out a solution." Mom set down her water glass with a slight tremor in her hand. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. We've never worked directly with you." "Not directly, no. But your account has been one of my most interesting cases. Someone has been making anonymous payments on your behalf. Mortgage, medical bills, even some home repairs. It's been quite comprehensive." The silence stretched across the table like a fault line about to rupture. Dad's face had gone pale and Mom was staring at David as if he'd started speaking in tongues. I don't understand, Dad said slowly. We thought the insurance covered most of the medical costs. And the mortgage company said there was some kind of assistance program. There was, David said. A very generous benefactor who wanted to remain anonymous. Until now. All eyes turned to me. Jennifer's mouth had dropped open slightly, and Mom was gripping her napkin so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Maya. Dad's voice was barely above a whisper. I set down my fork and looked around the table at the faces I'd known my entire life. The faces of people who had fed me, clothed me, sent me to school, but had never quite made me feel like I belonged. $237,412, I said quietly. That's how much I've spent over the past 2 years keeping this family afloat. Your mortgage payments, Mom's chemotherapy, Dad's heart medication, the roof repair after last winter's storm. All of it. Mom's hand went to her chest. Maya, that's not, we never asked you to. No, you didn't ask. You never asked me for anything. You just told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving because I'm not blood family. Maya, Jennifer said softly, this is incredible. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at my sister, the one member of the family who had always treated me with genuine affection, and felt my carefully constructed composure begin to crack. Because I wanted to see if you'd love me anyway. If you'd include me in your real family dinners without knowing what I'd done for you. If being your daughter for 25 years would be enough. My voice broke slightly on the last word. Dad pushed back from the table abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air, he muttered, walking toward the back door. Mom sat in stunned silence, tears beginning to form in her eyes. Jennifer reached across the table and took my hand. Maya, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. David cleared his throat gently. Perhaps I should give you all some privacy to discuss this. No, I said, squeezing Jennifer's hand. You're part of this story too. Because he was. David had been the vehicle through which I'd been able to care for this family, even when they didn't want me to be part of it. He'd helped me be the daughter they'd never asked for but desperately needed. The truth was finally out, sitting on the table between the mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce like an unwelcome guest. Now we'd all have to figure out what to do with it. Dad returned from the backyard 20 minutes later, his eyes red-rimmed and his shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. He sat down heavily in his chair and looked directly at me for what felt like the first time in years. Maya, I owe you an apology. We owe you an apology. Mom wiped her eyes with her napkin, her carefully applied makeup now smudged beyond repair. We had no idea. All this time we thought we were just lucky. That things were working out. You were lucky, I said quietly. You were lucky to have a daughter who loved you enough to save your house and pay for your medical care, even when you made it clear she wasn't really part of the family. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had been smoldering for decades. David shifted uncomfortably in his chair, probably regretting his decision to be part of this confrontation. Maya, Dad said, his voice hoarse, we never meant to make you feel that way. Didn't you? I stood up, pacing to the window that looked out on the backyard where I'd spent countless hours as a child, playing alone while David and Jennifer had friends over. Do you remember when I graduated summa cum laude from law school? You sent a card. When David got his associate's degree, you threw a party. That's not the same thing, Mom protested weakly. Isn't it? When I bought my condo downtown you said it was nice, and changed the subject. When Jennifer bought her starter home, you helped her move and threw a housewarming party. I turned back to face them. I've been keeping a mental tally my whole life and I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. Jennifer spoke for the first time since my revelation. Maya, I didn't know they were treating you differently. I mean, I knew there were differences, but I thought that was just because you were more independent. I was more independent because I had to be. Because every time I needed something, emotional support, financial help, just someone to celebrate with, I was reminded that I wasn't really their child. David cleared his throat. I think I should explain something about the financial arrangements, he said, pulling a folder from his briefcase. Maya didn't just write a few checks. She restructured your entire financial situation. She paid off your credit cards, set up automatic payments for all your utilities, even established a medical fund for future emergencies. He spread the documents across the table, and I watched my parents' eyes widen as they saw the scope of what I'd done. She also did something else, David continued. She set up a trust fund for your retirement. Both of you. It's been earning interest for 2 years, and when you both turn 65, you'll have a substantial nest egg. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Maya, that's too much. We can't accept this. You already have, I said simply. The question is what happens now. Dad leaned forward, his elbows on the table. What do you want from us, Maya? How do we fix this? It was the question I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. What did I want? An apology? A time machine to go back and redo my childhood? A guarantee that they'd never make me feel like an outsider again? I want you to understand that being adopted doesn't make me less your daughter. I want you to stop treating me like a stranger who happens to share your last name. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. I want you to include me in family decisions, family celebrations, family dinners. Not because I pay your bills, but because I'm your child. You are our child, Mom said, tears flowing freely now. Maya, you are our daughter. You've always been our daughter. Then why didn't you invite me to Thanksgiving? The question sat heavy between us. Finally, Dad spoke. Because we're idiots. Because we got scared when the medical bills started piling up, when I lost my job, when everything felt like it was falling apart. We retreated into this idea of blood family because it felt safer somehow. More permanent. But you're more permanent than any of us, Jennifer added. You're the one who was there when they needed help. You're the one who showed up. David began packing up his papers. I think my work here is done, he said, standing. Maya, I'll send you the final account statements next week. David, wait. Mom stood up too. Please stay for dinner. I mean, finish dinner. You're part of this family's story now too. He looked at me questioningly and I nodded. Stay. Please. As we settled back into our meal, the conversation gradually shifted from financial revelations to something more fundamental. We talked about the years of misunderstandings, the assumptions we'd all made, the love that had gotten lost in translation somewhere along the way. I need to ask you something, I said to my parents as David helped Jennifer clear the dishes. The anonymous payments I've been making, I can stop them now that you know. But I set up systems that will keep running automatically. Do you want me to cancel them? Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Maya, Dad said carefully, we can't ask you to keep supporting us financially. It's not right. You're not asking. I'm offering. The trust funds are set up, the medical account is established, the mortgage will be paid off in 3 years. Let me do this. Let me be your daughter in the way I know how. Why? Mom asked. After everything we've put you through, why would you want to keep helping us? I thought about it for a moment, watching Jennifer and David laugh about something in the kitchen, listening to the sounds of a family dinner continuing around us. Because this is what family does. We show up for each other even when it's hard. Even when we're hurt. Even when we're not sure we're wanted. I smiled for the first time all evening. Besides, you're stuck with me now. Blood or not, I'm a Whitmore. And Whitmores don't give up on family. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry for making you feel like you had to prove yourself to us. We love you, Dad added, his voice breaking slightly. We've always loved you. We forgot how to show it. Later that evening, after David had gone home and Jennifer had extracted promises from all of us to have regular family dinners, I sat with my parents in their living room. The same room where I'd done homework as a child, where I'd watched TV from the floor while my siblings got the couch, where I'd never quite felt like I belonged. Maya, Mom said, I have something to show you. She disappeared upstairs and returned with a photo album I'd never seen before. Inside were pictures of me throughout my childhood, birthdays, school events, random moments around the house. Pictures I hadn't known she'd taken. I made this album when you graduated from law school, she said softly. I wanted to give it to you, but I was afraid you'd think it was too little, too late.